Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Amiral Lartigue. This is a brand new premium tier 10 French cruiser, and it's going to be available for steel. 31,000 steel, currently available in the Armory with this update. Looks a lot like a Hildebrand, doesn't it? Yes, this is pretty much a French version of Hildebrand. Fortunately though, for everybody fighting against this ship, it does not have the massive amount of planes to spam out like Hildebrand. In exchange, though, we get really nice guns. We get Marseille guns, but this time with cruiser dispersion. So throughout this video, you should notice, generally, the dispersion looks quite good. We still only have 6 guns here, so we do lose out on a turret compared to Marseille. 6 guns, cruiser dispersion is still quite consistent. It is still possible for these guns to troll you from time to time. 6 guns tends to do that in this game, but that cruiser dispersion should make up a lot of ground for us. On top of that, we also have 2.05 Sigma, that being the tendency for the shells to be in the center of that dispersion ellipse. Marseille, for example, gets 1.8 Sigma. So battle cruiser 1.8 Sigma versus cruiser 2.05 Sigma. Generally, should result in some better salvos for us. And for the most part, while playing this ship, I did feel like the guns generally had good performance. The HE in particular is quite solid here. I tried to maybe force the AP too much while playing this ship, at least for the first impressions here. I really wanted to see if I could find those broadsides and get a bunch of citadels here. We have quite good pen on this AP. The shells are identical to Marseille shells, so our pen, even at 15 kilometers, is going to give us 424 millimeters of pen on the AP. It's pretty good. That can get through a lot of heavy cruisers, battle cruisers, even some lighter armored battleships there. Same fuse times, same arming threshold, same overmatch, 23 millimeters, which is useful if we ever find ourselves against light cruisers, but no improved pen angles here. The alpha damage is the same at 9,700. The reload, though, is very interesting on this ship. You get yourself a 16-second base reload. Marseille gets a 24-second base reload with another turret. And the math works out to be identical DPM. Your DPM is 108,000 on the HE and 218,000 on the AP. Exactly the same as what Marseille gets. So we lose a turret, but we have the same DPM. And with that, we should be getting better theoretical DPM compared to a Marseille, simply because we're hitting more of our shells. Our dispersion is better. We miss out on the reload booster, though, compared to a Marseille. But we do get a flight deck in return. Yes, we do have the ability to launch planes. I'm not going to show you those launches in this initial clip where the guns showed off pretty solid performance. This was before the update dropped. And they massively buffed the planes on release. They were very inaccurate, is all I'll say. They buffed dispersion by like 27%. It's a massive change. So I had to wait a little bit to make this video, play the live version, and that way we'll see the planes a little bit later on in this video. For now, though, let's get back to the ship and its hull in particular. Being a copy of Hildebrand in some ways is pretty good. It means your upper belt armor is very solid. Being essentially another copy of Aegir hull, I think, is what Hildebrand hull is like. So we have very good upper belt armor against HE. It does have a tendency to arm a lot of AP shells, though, so we're going to want to keep it angled. However, there are a few changes with the armor. I'll show you them in port for sure. But the bow and stern armor is not 27 millimeters here. It's only 25 millimeters. And that's really important because that means 380 millimeter guns can overmatch through you. And it hurts a lot to lose out on that auto bounce ability. You cannot brawl nearly as much with this ship. The other change to armor is to your flight deck. It's 32 millimeters instead of 30. That's really important because now 457s will not be able to overmatch your flight deck. So that leads me into the playstyle. I think this ship, much more so than Hildebrand, needs to be played further back. Your weaker armor at close range, stronger armor at longer ranges, combined with your improved dispersion at all ranges, seems to warrant a more passive playstyle. And I will admit that I played this ship far too aggressive in the vast majority of my games in it. and I did not have a great time playing that way. When I was able to play a little further back, play a little more cautious, wait until the late game for a good flanking opportunity, that's when this ship really shined. I did a much better job when I spammed more HE. Got a lot of consistent damage that way compared to the armor piercing. It is good into broadsides, but as soon as people start to angle to you, the HE really takes over and shines. A lot of the time, even if you're getting full pens with the AP, few overpens here and there too, you're going to notice the HE full pens will do similar amounts of damage in that 5 to 7,000 alpha damage from this HE. Since these are still Marseille HE shells, you get 55 millimeters of pen, 35% fire chance. It's the same fires per minute, again, just because shells per minute is identical, even though we're missing a turret, our reload makes up for that. 4,800 HE alpha damage really goes a long way. For reference, Hildebrand HE alpha is 3,600 alpha. Quite a bit lower. Also, only 27% fire chance on Hildebrand. It's one of the reasons why I often was using the AP. German ships tend to have a lot higher alpha damage AP and a lot weaker high explosive. Hildebrand really played like that. With this ship though, the Lartigue, I think the HE is generally going to be a lot better. And then just swap over to AP when someone gives you broadside. I found a little bit more consistency that way. These guns are quite solid. If you're looking to play a hybrid battle cruiser with good gun power, but less plane power, this is the one to look at. If you're wanting to play a hybrid ship with a ton of plane power though, Hildebrand is still the way to go. The problem is the cooldown on this plane's squadron. So these skip bombers here have a base reload of 200 seconds. That's okay. In fact, it's better than the Hildebrand bombers, which have a 300-second reload time. But with Hildebrand, we of course have the Torp bombers. 80-second reload time for those. Hildebrand is going to be spamming planes out, where Lartigue here is generally going to be using its guns, and then rarely sending out the airplanes. Personally, I think that is much better if we have to have hybrids in the game at all. This is a better way of going about things. The constant spam of tactical squadron planes, because that's what these are, means you're not punished for losing planes when dropping ships, because you're always guaranteed a full squad. 2 seconds here, we're going to get it. That is a full 6 planes every time, guaranteed. Now, I launched those planes at the Iowa, and then he got death struck by torpedoes. So we'll move to a different example. It's finally time that we talk about these planes. These are skip bombers, so you're best off finding broadsides with them. You really can't drop them bow on. They did buff the dispersion compared to what I played earlier, and I really noticed that here while playing with them after the update dropped. The alpha damage on the HE bombs, because these are HE skip bombs, is 9,600 with a 55% fire chance and 62 millimeters of pen. That means you need to be aiming for upper belts or superstructures. If you hit belt armor, you're just going to shatter. Likely you're going to get a fire, but it is still worth going for that extra alpha damage. Here I'm going after a Smolensk, a light cruiser, and mainly I'm trying to flush him out here. This is one of the... I mean, I'm biased here, but I think this is a pretty cheap tactic, honestly. We're going to lose a lot of planes. I did not do the best job there, but look at this. I can spot for myself. He's reversing out broadside to me, and we get a really good salvo at him. Decent dispersion here with this AP, and it's a light cruiser, so we managed to get a Citadel there. I think that's a little too gimmicky as far as like overall game balance, and that's not a great thing that we're able to spot for ourselves and then fire like that. But we don't do it very often. See, Hildebrand can do that very, very quickly. We gotta wait 200 seconds. We're gonna buff that to a little bit better reload. And then the Nakhimov goes over and spots him again, and we finish him off. Poor Smolensk, bro. The planes are just okay on this ship, alright? I am bad with planes, though, so to get a better picture of this ship, you really do need to go watch someone who's good with aircraft in this game. They'll give you a better picture of what this ship is like in regards to its bombers. It's no secret that I don't really like carriers. I have tried to get into them, but to be honest with you, I just find them boring. Okay, the playstyle, I just don't find fun, so I haven't put the time and effort into playing them. So when I play some of these skip bomber lines like Lartigue here, I'm not going to do quite so well. I did manage to find a few almost AFK ships, and I'll show you those in a little bit. For now, I want to mention just how bad the armor is yet again. It's 2 Libertads at close range. Yeah, it's going to hurt pretty much every ship in the game, but it feels pretty bad there to get nuked that quickly, while not being able to do damage in return. I was shocked I wasn't able to Citadel the Libertad there. Yes, I know it's got that weird angled Citadel, but at like 5 kilometers, we have so much pen on those guns. It's a little bit disappointing there. Do not brawl with Amiral Lartigue. This is one that needs to be played further back, even more so than Hildebrand. Here we've got an audacious, rather large tier 10 carrier. He is stationary. He is broadside. We have found the broadside shot here on this guy. And the dispersion isn't too bad on these bombs now. We're going to land the majority of these skip bombers, and we do 12,500 damage with 4 out of 6 hitting. I think I probably could have led that a little bit more, waited a couple milliseconds longer to let that aiming reticle go a little bit higher up on the enemy ship. But still, 4 bombs, 12,500 damage is still very good damage. It's just got a very, very long reload, and you're much more limited in the drop angle. It's much, much harder to use these skip bombers than the bombers on the Hildebrand. Those are kind of ridiculous with how easy they are. I know this ship may look a little bit worse than Hildebrand, especially if the hybrid role is what you're going for with a lot of planes. But Hildebrand is kind of busted, in my opinion. So overall, I'm pretty happy with the direction that if this is the way we have to go, and I still have hybrids in the game, I'm happy that this is the way we're going. Focusing more on the main guns being useful, and every once in a while getting planes. Here the Libertad damage controls, and it's going to take me long enough to get around to his broadside that his damage control will be down. So we're going to try and light a bunch of permafires with the 55% fire chance HE bombs. And with Libertads, we want to aim for upper belt. They have 51 millimeters upper belt, and we have 62 mil pens. So we should be getting some full pens there. I think an alright job of leading that one. A few went low into the belt armor, and then we get 3 full pens there. The damage was alright. Unfortunately, I didn't get any fires. And I think it's because one of my teammates got a couple fires the millisecond before my bombs landed. I really did not have the best luck with these bombs. Certainly a lot of skill issue too, don't get me wrong. But I think that was a reasonably well lined up drop. The timing was decent. Just so happened we missed out on that fire. So I didn't notice a ton of damage coming from the bombers. Most of my damage, most of my battle impact in these games certainly was coming from the main guns, which is how I think it should be. Overall, I'll be honest with you, I did not have a very good time with this ship. And you gotta know, I think this is just a personal playstyle difference. This might be the least PQ playstyle in the entire game, alright? This is a ship that does not have great armor for brawling, even worse than Hildebrand. This is a ship that has better armor than Hildebrand at longer ranges. The deck armor is better armored, leading us to want to play further back, camping things out a little bit more. Not only that, this ship has only 6 guns, and while they are better accuracy thanks to having cruiser dispersion, I still find 6 guns to just not have the volume to feel that consistent. This is a ship that wants to play further back, wait out enemy teams, spam a lot of HE, because the HE is very, very good on this ship. You get a lot of guaranteed fires here. And then launch your tactical squadron when someone damage controls or you find an especially vulnerable ship, or maybe you need spotting. It's not a bad ship. It's just really not for me, okay? This is not the kind of playstyle I'm particularly interested in here, and because of that, I don't think I'm going to be getting this one at all. If you're interested in a hybrid role, this could be worth looking for, although for steel, 31,000 steel is a lot to get. It's not an easy resource to obtain. And for myself personally, if we're thinking about that steel tier list I did a little while ago, I would put it pretty low for myself. And for the vast majority of people, I think there's much better options for steel than Amiral Lartigue. And now that we're back in port, I want to really show you this armor profile difference. 25 only here on the bow is pretty rough. 30 mil regular deck armor, and then the flight deck is 32. So if you're playing at really long ranges, it's going to be a lot of plunging fire. And because of that, half your ship is going to be immune to 457 overmatch. And if we scroll over to the Hildebrand, it's the exact opposite. We're better at close range because we have 27, but we have a little bit more weakness at long range because we have 30 here. It really just tells me that the Lartigue is meant to be played a little bit further back than Hildebrand is, and focused more on using its guns to do a lot of good damage over time. The HE is very solid at every range, any angle, good fire chance, good enough DPM, and the alpha damage is pretty high there too. The AP, if someone gives you broadside, is going to be solid. 6 guns, cruiser dispersion is consistent enough. Still will troll you from time to time on broadside cruisers, but for the most part, it feels so much more consistent than Hildebrand. Something like Marseille, battle cruiser dispersion, only 1.8 sigma, but you get more shell volume and you have the reload booster to make up or give you more DPM, more consistency into those broadsides. I didn't mention it yet, but we do have a nice engine boost here, giving us 20% more speed. This also impacts our acceleration. It feels quite maneuverable, even though the maneuverability and the speed is the same as Hildebrand. It's nice to have this extra engine boost. Maybe you use that to get into position early game, or if you get yourself into some trouble, it helps you to dodge a little bit better. Now, if you get into a spot where you have to kite though, you unfortunately do have 37-degree firing angles backwards. That is a pretty massive problem. Hildebrand also has this issue. Marseille also has this issue. So that's why I'm not too hard on Lartigue for having that as a problem here. But it is worth mentioning. Your secondaries are also similar to Hildebrand. They do not have improved accuracy at all, but you get slightly more theoretical DPM. Unfortunately, the 100 millimeters here, they only have 17 millimeters of pen. That can't even get through superstructures at high tier. So you would have to run IFHE. It's really not worth going for. The firing angles are even a little bit worse than Hildebrand. You'd have to give even more broadside to get them firing. And given the armor profile, I really think you should be playing a little bit further back. Concealment's a little bit worse than Hildebrand as well, 13 kilometers. Again, a little further back maybe than Hildebrand. For me, it's just not my kind of playstyle. The skip bombers are relatively quick. As you saw, they had the rocket booster at the start of their flights. You will get to your target relatively quickly. Now that we have the plane spotting changes in the game with this new update, where shell bloom, your gun fire bloom, doesn't impact your air detect here, it means that you don't really have to worry about getting spotted by planes quite so much, especially if you have a well-concealed ship. But it means for Lartigue, you're not getting as much spotting as you were last patch with a hybrid ship, which overall I think is a very, very good thing, but it is worth mentioning. It is a bit of a nerf in some of that, admittedly, I think it's overpowered utility, spotting utility that carriers had. Overall, I think that is in a good direction. The games that I did play with Lartigue, I noticed when I was fighting carriers and I was shooting my main guns behind islands, I wasn't getting spotted nearly as much because I had an 8.1 kilometer air detect. Previously, that would have bloomed out to 10, 11 kilometers, somewhere in there, and you get spotted a little bit more that way. I think it's a good direction for the game to go in, but for these hybrids, it does mean you get less of that accidental spotting. As for the build that you want to run on a ship like this one, I tried many different builds here. The last one I was going for, I was trying to focus a little bit more on the main guns, top grade outnumbered here. Didn't activate outnumbered really all that often, to be honest with you, and I went without survivability expert. I think it'd be a lot better to run that, as this ship is not that tanky and takes a lot of extra damage. So I would rather have that extra HP. So I'd probably drop outnumbered for survivability expert. Possibly top grade as well, because again, I want to play a little further back. The turret traverse being 34.5 seconds here with this build is fine, but it is a little bit sluggish, so you may want grease the gears. Given that you're often playing a little further back, bow on, I didn't notice it as too big of a problem. Definitely want gun feeder. Both the HE and AP are well worth using here. Focus fire training, nice for some AA benefits, but mostly we're bringing this one for aircraft prep time, being 10% better DPM and reload on these aircraft here. We don't get any other buffs on the cruiser skills for our aircraft, like this isn't going to help us, so we're not going with that. Of course, Tick and Conceal, Superintendent, Adrenaline Rush, those are pretty standard skills. On our upgrades, definitely go with main battery mod 3 here. That gets us down to a 14-second reload with 330mm guns. Feels very fast. Again, the DPM is similar, exactly the same as Marseille, but given you're lacking a turret, you do reload pretty quickly. And overall, if you're spamming HE, I think that's a pretty massive buff over Marseille. That allows you to oftentimes get that guaranteed fire after someone damage controls, or maybe pinpoint another section of the enemy ship to get multiple fires. It's really, really nice to have cruiser dispersion and this kind of reload on such powerful guns. Obviously, we want to go with concealment, as well as air groups mod 3. It's still a pretty long reload, but with all of these buffs, we get it down to 171 seconds, down from 200 seconds. It by no means feels like I'm playing a Hildebrand, like I'm spamming planes all the time and rarely shooting my guns. This one is the exact opposite. I'm rarely launching planes, and I'm often using my main guns. So if you're interested in that sort of playstyle hybrid, then this one could be worth looking for. Obviously, going aiming systems here. Our 20% engine boost is so powerful, I did want to make use of engine boost mod 1 here, and then definitely taking main armaments mod 1. We still don't have that implemented where we don't have to worry about permanently destroyed modules anymore. That should be coming soon. Massive update to that dev blog. Can't wait for that to come into the game. But given we only have 2 turrets and their armor is decent, but you know, a few battleship salvos could knock those out, I want to keep those alive as much as I can. This is our main focus of our battle impact and our damage here. Overall, it's not a ship I personally am interested in, but I've tried to give you a fair assessment of the strengths and weaknesses of it. If this sort of thing interests you, then 31,000 steel, it's quite a lot to go for. But overall, I am definitely happy with the direction. If this is where we have to be, if we have to have hybrids in the game, I'd much rather they look like this than Hildebrand. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.